An overwhelming amount of our listeners have asked about one topic: friendship. Today, we have an honest conversation about the challenges of making new friends and nurturing the ones we do have. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning, Jess.
Did you like that? How I
I,
just sang your name?
it was beautiful.
I
Just
know.
like all your singing is
I
beautiful
know.
to
It's
me.
so, thank you. I really appreciate that you just nurture this thing that I do that I don't do well, but I enjoy doing.
You nurture my singing too. I just don't do it on the air.
Yeah, but
So
you are like a professional singer or like a singer. I'm
that's
like
true.
a closet singer that should not sing in public
You
ever.
have
And yet I
you
do it
have
on a podcast.
you've built your own stage and you perform regularly, and I
You
love this
know,
for you.
that's a joy of being 41 and not caring. Whatever I like to sing, I'm going to sing. And there we go.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what is not the best part of being 41
Do tell.
or 30s or late 20s? Friendship. Friendship
Hmm.
is, I mean, it's the best part, but it is one of the hardest things about being an adult. And it's something that comes up literally every day in my office when I see clients. This feeling of like, I'm alone and I don't know how to make friends.
Well, and if you have not joined our Facebook group, go to Facebook, join the Honest Women podcast community. There are a few questions to fill out prior to joining, one in which is, what do you want to hear about?
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, out of the, what do we have, 70-ish members
Mm-hmm.
right around now? An overwhelming amount of those 70 people said friendship. Friendship. I don't know how to make new friends. I don't know where to meet them as a stay-at-home mom, as a working mom, as
Mm-hmm.
a middle-aged woman. I want friends and I have no idea where to go to get them.
Mm-hmm.
So join that group. Tell us what you want us to talk about because we'll do it. We're always looking for ideas.
Yes, absolutely. And I also feel like, when you start a group, it's weird. You're building it for a little while, but I'm starting to feel like I see the names of women in there and we start having honest conversation. And I feel like our little corner of the internet is a place to build friendships.
Yes, I
And
love that.
yeah. We're going to talk about friends in real life, but we're all online. So instead of just mindlessly scrolling, join the group and see if you can start to connect with women, badass women from all over the country who are truly thoughtful and genuine. And like you can have real conversations and I want to make some online friends that become friends in real life.
Oh, I
I'm
agree.
bringing it back to the early days of the internet here.
My girl, do it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So, friendship is something we start talking about at a very, very young age, right? Like we have these
Mm-hmm.
mom groups or play groups, and they have friends, quote unquote friends, our kids. And
Mm-hmm.
then as we get older, right, we get older, those friendships become more difficult to
Yeah.
nurture. And it
Mm-hmm.
also becomes really hard to make new friends. What do you see as some of the struggles that women face with making and maintaining friendships?
At this point in my life, I think it's time. Time is the biggest challenge because I just don't have any time.
Hmm.
And making friendships, making friends requires time. And I feel like most women that I know in our stage of life, kind of middle of the life, I don't want to say midlife, makes me feel old. Well, middle of the life, we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off, right?
Totally.
I mean, my very best friends at this moment, these are people I've already been able to establish a friendship with. We trade a text or a voice memo like every few weeks.
Oh,
That's where we're at.
absolutely. Yep.
Time is the biggest one for me.
Yeah, I think we are busier than we ever
Hmm.
used to be. We have much more complex lives and we're kind of pinballs. Everybody pinballs around.
Hmm.
Now, people will say, well, my friend moved to London, my friend moved to New York, I have one in Arizona. They're all over the place. And that is something that has changed over time is we are not all in one area for a long time. A lot of people leave their hometowns, both for
Hmm.
college or indefinitely,
Hmm.
which makes it a little bit harder to stay in close contact. And it challenges us to go outside of our comfort zone to try to find new friends.
Hmm.
Another thing I see is we're getting married later than we used to be. And so when you're getting married later, you bring lots of diverse groups
Mhm.
together. It's no longer our friends, it's he has these friends or they have these friends and she has these friends. And now how do we mesh and intermingle? And what if they don't like each other? That's
Mhm.
another big one that happens today that didn't used to happen.
For sure. Also, I just think that our culture undervalues friendship. Like the
For
women in
sure.
our group now know, and everyone who's asking us this question, and everyone who comes into my office feels that ache. Like, I need women in my life that I feel connected to. But culturally, we've been told that the end all be all is find you that man or
Oh, yeah.
partner. And again, that the end all be all is find you that man and he's all you're going to need for the rest of your life. Now, I love my husband. He is my very best friend for sure. I need other friends too. It is
100%.
not the end all be all. And so I feel like sometimes our marriages plus our busy schedules mean that we feel like we don't have time for friends. They're not even that important. They're almost like nice to have, not need to have. And a lot of us women feel guilty for taking time for ourselves. And again, you need time away to do it.
Yes, yes, yes. Another thing I've seen is the shift in society where we've become a very individualized society over
Hmm.
time. That's slowly happened over the past decades. We have become a me society. Now, that hurts us when it comes to friends in two different ways. One, it becomes what do you have to offer me, which puts
Hmm.
a lot of pressure on the other person. Then there's the other way where what if I'm not enough for you, which leads to that fear of rejection. I can't go up to him. I can't look at that group of women all talking. I can't go up. What if they reject me? What if they
Hmm.
don't like me?
Hmm. Yeah. And as we've lost a sense of being part of a collective, I think we've also, in terms of becoming very individual, a lot of people are walking around super identified with either a trait or a position or a belief or like a parenting approach. And it's your identity is so like intensely locked and individual that you're looking for somebody who is this perfect fit for like everything that you have researched and created as an identity, instead of just being like, well, who's in my community? It's the people that are in my neighborhood, literally within like 4 houses of me. That's as far as I can go.
Yeah.
Or, the people who are in a church or in a volunteer group or in a running group. We just like don't do those things, those group things. And I almost think we rob ourselves of the chance to make really good fit friends because we're so individual and we're so differentiated. And we're like, a friend needs to be a perfect fit for everything I believe and exactly how I live my life. And you just end up kind of adrift because, like, who is that person? I don't know.
Well, they don't exist. I mean, that's an unrealistic expectation for what a friend should look like.
Hmm.
And I think in a modern day world, it's really easy to avoid things that make us uncomfortable.
Hmm.
We have less one on one contact with one another. I was looking at different rates of depression and when they really started to come up. And one of it was with when the ATM came out because you were no longer going into the bank and talking to the banker
Oh,
and the teller. You were just going to the machine.
mm,
Interesting, right? But now if you look at it, you order your groceries online half the time. You have them either
yes.
you pick up or you deliver them, or you don't even go into the post office. You don't go in the post office as
I
much.
mean,
We
your
we
best friend could
anything.
be the lady behind the postal counter. You don't even
100%.
know. Right.
You
But
don't know.
you know what the nail in the coffin is for all of this is work friends. Like, we
Oh, for
used to
sure.
go into offices and see people on a regular basis. And we'll get into how much time is required to make a friend. But for a lot of people, the people that you work with, whoever you kind of kick it off with at work, they are your friends. And your broader office is your community, right? And we don't have that anymore. I cannot tell you how isolated people have become from working at home. And it's one of the things that I encourage people all the time that I work with, go into your office.
Oh, me
Sometimes they'll
too.
say, no one else is there. I'm like, well, send a Slack message to the person that you think is like the most relatively okay, cool. and ask them to be there. I know people will get mad about this, but I actually think return to office is a good thing for your mental and
100%
relational
agree.
health.
Yeah, I think a good solid like hybrid. No,
Yeah.
I'm agree. I totally agree. It's one of the things I also tell people to do is go into your office. I think a
Mhm.
hybrid schedule is ideal, right? Where you can
Right.
have both because I see the benefit of having a parent who's home and able to work from home. You need to
Mhm.
go in the office though. And
You
anybody,
do.
if you're an employer, make your damn employees come in for a couple days a week. Don't
Right.
send me a bunch of hate mail for saying that, but it's true.
Mhm.
We need socialization. We
Yeah.
need to be around people. And if you are feeling lonely and wanting to connect with others, it is a hell of a lot easier to have conversations when you're in an office versus you're sitting alone in your home office on a Zoom call. Nobody
Right.
connects over Zoom. I'm sorry, it just
No.
doesn't happen.
No. It's the worst.
So we've talked a little bit about all of these different complexities that impact our ability to make new friends. What else? Do you
Mhm.
see anything else that really challenges that for women in the modern day world?
I do think, can I get personal here?
No, you're not allowed to.
It's not what we do here.
We don't share personal
We
stories. We
don't
don't air
do.
any of our dirty laundry.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that as we get older and our kids get older and they have their own social lives, our friendship, whatever little friendship world we were able to cobble together when they were little, that time when like you've got a toddler and you're like, hey, your kid looks about the same number of months as my kid. Now we can be friends. That starts to get challenged and it can kind of fall apart, Like I have a 14-year-old now. So some of the people that I bonded with earlier, our kids don't get along the same way. It kind of throws a wrench into things. And like, I don't know if this is happening. I'm not even going to ask you. I don't want to out you. I don't know if this is happening in your neck of the woods, but sometimes there's drama.
Oh, for
Sometimes there's
sure.
drama in parent groups and mom groups. And you you know people for long enough and you can be like, we have history, or I don't really like you, or she doesn't like her. My God, the complexity of trying to just have some connections when you're like, there's been drama here, or our kids don't get along, or I think your kid's an asshole, or I don't like how you parent your kids, or I mean, there can be some real challenges in
Oh, yeah, it's
maintaining
very
relationships.
complex. The drama is real, and I just think that's universal. It's
Totally.
funny because I'll have some of my high schoolers who are like, "Oh, I can't wait to get out of high school," and I'm when essentially saying, because then the drama ends, and I'm like, "Oh, honey, the drama never ends.
Right.
It
You're
never
right.
ends."
You're like, it's going to get a little bit better in college. And then, like, there's a weird time in your 20s where you're just going to be fucking lonely. But then when you're in 30s, there's going to be mean girls. There's going to be
Oh yeah,
drama. There's
oh
going to be,
yeah.
all of it. Yeah. Just wait. It gets worse.
Just wait.
Don't tell
It
them
never
that.
goes
It's
away.
fine.
I
No.
totally tell them that. I'm like, sorry, just learn lessons early on
Right.
how to manage the drama, how to navigate the drama. It will help you later on in life. Don't think it
Hmm.
ends, right? Let's set realistic expectations. But you're spot on. We have different opinions now on how we raise our kids, very strong opinions in parenting styles and
Hmm.
what one couple does or one family does, another one doesn't, or kids that are mean or kids that are allowed to do things that these ones aren't. I mean, my gosh, I hope we have normalized how hard and complex this topic is and why
Hmm.
so many women have wrote in and asked us for help with
Yeah.
navigating those.
Yeah.
So I was recently when I was looking up different things for this episode, I came across a research study that essentially said that it takes 200 hours with someone to form a friendship.
Hmm.
What's your response to that?
Okay, I'm just going to tell our listeners exactly what I wrote down in response to that, which is fuck, that's a long time, but it sounds about right. That was my actual response to this fun fact. Can I just say, though, that this completely explains the long period of drought that we have when we become an adult? Like, just think this through, right? 200 hours when you're a school kid, is easy to come by. What is that? 1 month of being in school? Same thing in college. Again, it's a little harder because you do live on a hall with certain people, so you hit that mark really easily. It just takes longer to meet friends in the rest of campus, but it's fine. And then for those of us who are in our 40s-ish, 42, we came up in the working world at a time where everyone was in the office. And I, for one, started in, we had like start classes with another like 50, we were kids at the time, 50 kids doing public accounting, working our asses off, a bajillion hours, partying also our asses off, right? So then you've got all this built-in stuff. But then you move to the suburbs, you don't know a damn person, you have a baby. Now you've just gone through a transition, and the friends that you used to have, they might not click anymore. And you can enter this time period. I remember this like killed me when people would say this, where before your kids get into grade school, you're just fucking adrift
Oh, for
because
sure.
200 hours is so hard to come by unless you get really lucky, unless you move into a house and right next door is a woman who's got a similar path to you. You have kids that are similar age and you hit it off. It's just really hard to come by that number of hours.
Yeah. 200 hours, which
Mm,
also highlights why in early life, right, in elementary school, in middle school, high school, college, it's easy to make friends. You are spending 6 to 8 hours a day with somebody. It is
mm-hmm,
you can quickly identify who's going to be friend and who's not. You
mm-hmm,
take that 200 hours and put it into your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. It becomes a lot more difficult. But I also
mm-hmm,
want to highlight the 200 hours because we have to manage our expectations here
mm-hmm.
when we are looking to make new friends and
Right.
knowing that one time meeting somebody is not going to give you enough evidence to support whether that friendship can or can't stand the test of time or even blossom into an actual friendship.
And we're going to talk about practical strategies for meeting someone in just a little bit. But I do have to say that this means that you have to do friendship like activities before you feel like friends. You have to do things friends do before you get there because it's going to take time together to know if this thing is for real, like you said. And we can't wait to hit 200 hours of casual contact before starting to act like friends, knowing that we'll grow together or we'll grow apart, and that's okay. Can I can I say something that I don't know if it's going to be controversial or not, but I'm asking a lot of permission of you
I
today.
know, I'm like, why are you asking my permission? It's
I don't
your show
know.
too. You're
It,
not
it
like
I
a
just
like it's your show. I'm like,
Jess is
why?
in charge today though. I just
I'm
want
like,
to.
why do you think I'm in charge?
Okay, I'm ready. I'm
Okay,
just going to say it.
say it,
Can we
girl.
pour one out? Not coffee. I'm
For
going
our
to pour this
homies,
into my mouth for, who I want to pour one out for. And
our homies.
again, okay, for the working mom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
as a working mom, I remember this time we're in grade school, my kids are in grade school. And I saw this group of women that like really seemed, I liked them all individually when I met them. And I just be like, God, like, why are these women so close? They just seem to be friends in a way that I cannot break in. And it was because they were stay at home moms. And again, they created their 200 hours. And I know, having been a stay at home mom, that takes work, right? It can be the worst, most isolating job ever. But I had seasons as a stay at home mom where I identified a person and we became friends. And then we would spend every day together. And you hit those hours pretty fast. And,
Mm-hmm.
these moms, even as their kids were in grade school, they were volunteering a lot at the school, basically creating a job, but creating a job with their friends. It's really hard to get up to those hours when you are a working mom. It's so hard. And I know that we had a listener, a beloved listener, who asked us a question about stay at home mom versus working mom. And I just want to validate that, like, yeah, girl, it's really, really hard to find friends as a working mom because of this. And this is why it's even more important to like go into your office and acknowledge that work friends are friends. They count. So if you like someone at your office, that counts as a friend too.
Absolutely agree with you on that. And I know as I transitioned back to work and working, it was harder for me to make new friends because it
Mhm.
was that 200 hours took a lot longer to add up than it did when my kids were younger and I was in the mom groups and the music groups and doing all those things. I would spend
Mhm.
6 hours with some of these women
Mhm.
on a day-to-day basis. And so yeah, I agree with you. I think that also before we move into kind of some practical strategies is we also have to realize that one's not better than the other.
No.
And I see so much animosity amongst women that
Mhm.
go up against each other. And I would almost argue if we would take all of the energy that we go to criticizing and judging and gossiping and all of that and redirected it into trying to build connections with one another, it might not be so difficult. But
Mhm.
I see that all the time, women against women. I'm like, come on, let's help each other out. Let's stop bringing
Mhm.
each other down.
Yeah, I agree. And I just think I want to acknowledge that there is a tendency for stay-at-home moms to partner up with other stay-at-home moms and working moms to feel closer to other working moms because we share a daily lived experience, but also because of where our hours go. And so if you're a working mom and you're looking at a group of women you just can't break into and you notice that they're all stay-at-home moms and they do these activities together, that's why. It's not you. It might not be your best fit, right? And
Right.
if you're a stay at home mom and your very best bestie is now working, you might need to find some other stay at home moms that are going to be more available to you. Then it doesn't mean you don't have friends across the aisles. It just means that they're unlikely to be your very best fit.
Yes. Agree. Completely agree. Okay, so since we know that our listeners are collectively struggling right now with friendships, what are some strategies that we can offer them based on our own personal histories, our own clinical backgrounds, and kind of all the data we've been looking at for the past
Mhm.
year after year?
Mhm. So we I'm going to keep beating that drum about the 200 hours and want to introduce another topic. Sociologist Rebecca Adams described the ingredients of the organic friend, which is seeing people over time repeatedly in an unplanned way and then letting your guard down and be vulnerable. We are not going to build a lot of organic friendships as adults because it just takes so much time. And so, my dear listeners, you are going to have to take unapologetic initiative. That is something that we can do that helps us to deal with covert avoidance, which is I don't feel like I have any friends, so I don't go out to try to make friends, right? I'm like literally avoiding the whole friendship thing. And when we get there to wherever there is, we have to interact with people. So
Yes.
you can show up at the PTA meeting or at the Bible study or at the workout class. But if you're staying stuck in the corner and you're not talking to people, you will not be putting in the hours to build that friendship.
Yeah, you've got to put in the time, right? We
Mm-hmm.
have to say that. One of the things I came across is the whole concept of I want new friends. This is something that we say and we hear all the time. I want new friends. That is an incomplete thought.
Mm-hmm.
I want new friends to do what? You have to attach something to it because that gives you direction. But just simply
Mm-hmm.
saying, I want new friends, I want new friends, I want new friends is going to keep you stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the friendship going to be about? What is a
Right.
hobby? What is something you are into? What is something you like? That gives you direction. Then it's like, okay, I can join this group, this club, go to this place. And I know already that the people here have a shared interest. It gives
Mm-hmm.
us something to talk about, but you
Yes.
got to have it about.
Yes. Even I want new friends that have children the same age as my children. Okay, sign up for the Mommy and Me music class, or put your kid in preschool, but make sure you get out of the car for drop off. And then when you get out of the car, do not stand back and, act kind of weird or cross your arms or, say, I don't like the vibe here. If you don't like the vibe, change the vibe. Change it by going up to people and talking to them. And here is something that's very helpful. Okay. You need to assume that other people like you.
Hmm.
You need to assume, and even if you don't believe that in your gut, you have to, do a Stuart Smalley. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. Because here's what we know about liking. A lot of us think we need to be a certain type of person. I need to be smarter. I need to be funnier. I need to have the best story. No, people like people that they think like them. They literally, it's called the quality of inferred attraction. So if I go into a group of people, all I need to do is give people my attention, ask them questions about themselves, laugh when they say something funny. Those people will like me because I like them, right? It's kind of that simple.
Yeah, it's almost like we also need to do a episode on the art of small talk and how
Hmm.
we have conversations now, because I don't think anybody knows how to make small talk outside of like, oh, the weather,
Hmm.
that stuff. And we really can go back to the basics, which makes it easier to start a conversation with somebody. But when people are talking in a group, there's often a shared experience that they're talking about, or a topic that they're all debating about or discussing, evaluating, whatnot. It is a way to enter a conversation and to be a
Hmm.
part of it by listening to what people say and finding something you identify with. Being
Yeah.
able to say, back just a second ago, you mentioned that you really struggle with talking on the phone with your mom. Oh my gosh, I have that same struggle. How do you work through that? What do you do? There you
Hmm.
go. That's a way to start a conversation and build a connection with somebody that could lead to further conversation. Ask questions, get curious. People like to talk about themselves. We
They
all
do.
do in our experiences.
Hmm. And that really takes the pressure off of you to like have the right thing to say, right?
Oh, for sure.
Along those lines, we understand that you have to have some vulnerability to build connection. But our culture gets vulnerability all wrong. We
Oh,
think
yeah.
vulnerability is oversharing.
Nope.
And again, as an introvert and as a therapist, there's a lot of jokes and memes out there, and they're all true that you want to show up and be like, tell me your trauma, right? Like that. We don't need to,
No, I
no,
don't want to know that.
right. You don't need to do that. And also, there's a huge difference. So, like, for example, I felt like I would relate to people talking about when I had postpartum depression. The truth is, that was really not something that it wasn't super vulnerable for me. I didn't feel vulnerable talking about it, right? It just, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. Vulnerability is like a little bit of a sense of, what feels a little risky for me to share, what feels like something I'm just not 100% sure how it's going to land. So, a better example for me right now would be it would be vulnerable for me to tell you all or ask you about what book you're reading and then reveal that I have been reading a fantasy novel that is a little spicy called The Fourth Wing. Everyone should read it. It is. You're welcome.
Yeah, girl.
Um, but for me, that's a little vulnerable. And so you don't have to
Mhm.
go and be like, when I was six, tell like the trauma stories
God, no.
from your life. Go and just like, sushi. I hate sushi. Okay, that's a little vulnerable. That's okay. Does that make sense?
I mean, to me, it makes perfect sense.
I
And I
hope
think it's
so.
also about giving clarity to people, because if there's one thing that I am realizing is that collectively everybody struggles with friendships.
Hmm.
Mostly, well, I'm just going to speak towards women, right? Like, we as women struggle with friendships. We are hearing it and we are seeing it all the time. And so, also, one thing is we all want to be validated. You can go up to
Hmm.
somebody and say, You know, we've spent some time together, and I just want you to know I consider you like a really close friend, even though we've only met a few months ago.
Mhm.
People love that clarity.
Mhm.
And women often think they're not good enough, right? She doesn't think I'm good enough. She doesn't want to spend time with me. Offer that clarity. I would love to spend time with you. I enjoy our conversations. I think
Mhm.
that we talk on a deeper level, and I really enjoy that.
Mhm.
Highlight that. That leads to deeper relationships and more friendships when the other person knows that you value them as much as they value you.
Mhm. So let's be explicit about where to find these friends. You've mentioned this a couple times, but when you're thinking, I want new friends for whatever purpose, go to where that thing is happening on a repeated basis. So, if you want new friends who share a healthy lifestyle, then maybe you pick a workout class and you go to it every single week and you make it non negotiable. Or if you want new friends for your faith, you sign up for a Bible study. If you want new friends with toddlers, you show up at the mommy and me classes. Don't go to the one time lecture,
No.
go to the repeating thing because there it is well studied that what people feel closer to people who look familiar. And so it can be that sense of, oh, hey, I recognize you. That's the beginning of making a friendship.
Yes.
The other thing that we know is that people in transition tend to be more open to friendship. Maybe you join like the newcomers in our area. There's a town that has a newcomers group. I'm sure that that's for people who have just moved in, but also for people who are welcoming, right?
Mm,
So that is somebody who might be more open to friendship versus somebody who's lived in the same town their whole life and they are best friends with their high school besties. Like you're probably not going to break into that group. So show up for a new mom who's just had her first baby, right? Be on the welcoming committee at your kid's school, and welcome another family. You don't know if they'll be your person, but you're increasing the chances that you will be their person because they're
yes.
going to be more open in transition.
I would also say take a look at the relationships you already have. Maybe people that you've spent some time with, not 200 hours, but you've spent a chunk of time with. I think a lot of times if we just take a step back and instead of say, I want new friends, and we say, well, wait a minute, who would I consider in my life right now a friend or
Mhm.
someone who could be a friend? Nurture those 3 to 5 relationships. Make
Mhm.
time for those 3 to 5 relationships. I think and would argue most women already have people in their lives that they could
Mhm.
build deeper relationships to, but we get stuck in
Yeah.
this thought and stuck in this belief that we should have more.
Mhm.
Right there. We just
It
need a little bit more conversation.
Yes, I actually have a very good example of this and an example of this kind of last point that I want to make, which is trust the spark. So if you like someone, trust that they probably like if you get a good vibe from them, they probably get a good vibe from you. This is almost embarrassing, but there was a mom at our school. Our kids have been in school 8 years now together. Every time I see her, I am delighted by her. Like, I love her. We will gravitate towards one another and sit on the bleachers and chat, chat, chat. We don't even pay attention to the fact that our kids are competing. I just love her so much. We never hung out. Never. Not once. 8 years. We never hung out. Why? And so recently, this last year, I I had looked up something that I thought was fun to do. And I was like, you know who I think would be fun to do this with? It's her. She's a listener of the show. So shout out to you. You know who you are. And she was like, yeah, let's go. And since then, we don't get to see each other all the time because we don't live right next to each other, but we're in the same town. And we are both really busy. We both work and it's hard. But my favorite move, ladies, and if I've asked you to walk with me, I'm making a move on you. I text her, you want to go for a walk? And then, when she's free and I'm free, we get to go for a walk together. I have a couple moms now that I walk with. It's such a nice alternative to just going out for drinks. And we walk and walk and walk. We get our steps in because we're fucking 40s and we care about that shit. And we dodge cicadas right now and it's fine, but we talk about what's going on in our lives. And it makes a huge difference. When you feel that spark, don't be afraid to be like, hey, want to go for a walk? That feels really low key, but it's like a great opportunity to get a little closer to someone.
I love that. What a great story to close with, because it highlights somebody that might be already in your world, who
Mhm.
you have just conversation with, but you haven't identified or taken the time to say, wow, this is actually a person I would like to know on a deeper level. And then you take that step and you do. It is risky. They might say no. Know that. That is also not seemingly them rejecting you.
Mhm.
Sometimes they can't that day or they won't be able to. Ask again.
Sometimes you're trying to make friends with someone whose dance card is full, right? Like,
Yes.
because we are busy and we don't need 100 friends, I need like 2 friends. And once I've got 2 friends, I'm probably not going to make a new friend. Not a person I intentionally spend time with, because I just don't have the emotional and relational capacity. So if you feel like, you're doing some reach outs and it's just not clicking, it's not you. It doesn't mean you're not worthy. Examine the evidence a little bit. Is it because they're a stay-at-home mom and you're a working mom? Is it because they live in the town where they grew up and they've been friends with these girls for 10 years? Like, you're not breaking into that, right? You are worthy of friendship and connection. And if it doesn't click, move on.
Absolutely. So, ladies, what we hope you take from today's conversation is that collectively, actually, all of us are worried about not having enough friends, worried
Hmm.
about how we nurture relationships and how we make new friends. I promise you that is universal. So, if you see a woman that looks fun, or is you see somebody in that workout class every single Monday and you're always there, take the chance, go up and have a conversation, knowing that there is a good chance she also is looking for more connection and community in her life.